So good afternoon and welcome everybody. I'm Tom Katzenmeyer. I'm President and CEO of the Greater Columbus Arts Council. This is our board chair, Michael Bongiorno. We're delighted that you're here with us for our virtual public forum. I think this is the first event in this new Ross community studio, so we're thrilled with the partnership that we have with WOSU. If you see Sandy and Andy Ross, tell them that you were here and that you're very grateful for their incredible philanthropy for WOSU. We're very thrilled about that. So for those people that are tuning in online, you can submit questions via Vimeo. We'll be taking those. And there's a mic here, obviously right in the center aisle for the folks that are here with us live and in person. Last year, you'll recall that our theme was a lot about gratitude, and that's really not much different this year because we have a lot of gratitude and a lot of people that we're going to thank this afternoon. So you're going to hear a lot of thanks from us. And we've managed to navigate the ups and downs of 2021, and I think despite some continuing uncertainties with the virus numbers, we're going to end the year on a high note this year. So we're really pleased with that. We're going to get into some detail on that in a few minutes here. I always have to thank the City of Columbus, the Franklin County Commissioners, and the Ohio Arts Council for the financial support that they give us. We're also grateful this year to the American Electric Power Foundation for their continued support of the Arts Festival. They're the lead sponsor of that, and Michael's going to talk about that later. We're thrilled to be having that in June of 2022. And also they gave us recently $1 million for our endowment at the Columbus Foundation. And you're going to meet in a few minutes the two artists who have won our first two awards from that. We're thrilled to be able to do that for you today. I'm going to share with you very briefly some of the things that we accomplished this year. It was not a normal year. It was an unnormal year, much like 2020 was. And we publish our annual report in the first quarter of next year, so we're not going to dive too deeply into this. That's going to be full of wonderful images and the financial reporting on where we are. One of the things that I'm most proud of this year is that we were able to keep our grants funding steady for the organizations and for the artists. And in fact, at the end of the year, we were able to slightly increase the amount that we gave to organizations. We're thrilled to be able to do that. That happened, I would tell you, because of good financial planning, good support from our board, strong reserves, and we really got our hands on every possible extra public dollar that we could, and I know that a lot of the arts organizations did that also. And then finally, I tell you, around the middle of the year, the ticket fee money began to recover. So that was really helpful, and that allowed us to give that sort of final little boost to the organizations at the end of the year. So I'm not calling it as a trend yet, but things are better. There's a lot of events. I know you're going out to them, and we're thrilled that Broadway's back. The Nutcracker opens tomorrow. It's all good. We also hosted our first Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson Artist in Residence. I know many of you met him, Memphis-based artist Jonathan Payne. We also awarded our second Amina Fellowship recipient. That went to Columbus-based artist Wendy Kendrick. Our first fellow was Don C. Coulter. Our second was Wendy, and we just announced yesterday that Duarte is the current fellow, and we're thrilled about that. Yes, you can do that, the audience, yes. It's so funny to watch that on social media yesterday. He obviously has a lot of friends and supporters. He's done so much for this community. So Amina's house was put on the Ohio's Registry of Historic Places in October. You see a picture of it there. It looks great. And there was a historic marker installed out front, signaling to the world really the importance of Amina, her life, and her home to Columbus and in the Shepherd neighborhood. Many of you are familiar with the Art Unite C-Bus project. We started with Kappa in 2020. We paid artists to paint on the plywood that was put up on the broken windows downtown. after George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were murdered. At the request of the public, we toured those for actually more than a year, and they're now at their final 4 stops. So you got to get out there quickly to see it, because they're going to begin to come down next week. They're at CCAD, the Columbus Metropolitan Library on Grant, Fort Hays, and here on campus at The Ohio State University. You can see them on the Wexner Center Plaza across the street, and they're also inside the Thompson Library, and they are spectacular. They're stunning. So if you have a chance, and I think they're going to stay up in the Thompson Library a little bit longer than next week, so please get over there to check them out. That is coming to an end, but here's the teaser that I will give you. We're going to publish a book of them sometime in the year 2022. We're working on that right now, so there will be a commemoration of this whole period of history in Columbus. All the artists will be featured in there, all the photography of the murals. We're quite excited about that. So stay tuned for that. And that'll continue to be like a teaching tool and a mechanism to continue the dialogue on these issues go forward. The other thing I want to mention in this area is the partnership that we had with the Maroon Arts Group and the City of Columbus on the series of Deliver Black Dreams murals. 2 more murals were painted this year. We're going to show a photo of those. The first was on Wilson Road in the Hilltop area, and the second on Freebus Avenue on the south side. That one is spectacular, the length of it. That's a great drone shot of it. I don't know whether you guys can see them on the side screens here. So we're grateful for Maroon for that, and honestly, it's just the start of some more great work that's going to come from the Maroon Arts Group that we're going to partner with them on, so we're thrilled about that. We also leveraged the Columbus Makes Art campaign this fall to encourage people to get back exploring the city after it was largely shut down downtown by launching a Columbus Makes Art passport, where we did stickers and you could go to various attractions. We printed 10,000 of these, got them in people's hands. We engaged with 59 arts organizations and restaurants and other places, and we've surveyed the people that have participated in. The results of that are very favorable, and we're going to continue to do that again in the fall of 2022. So hopefully this will become an annual campaign for us there. The other thing that was pretty neat about this past year was Will Haygood launched his book here, Colorization, 100 Years of Black Film in a White World. He did a 25-city book tour, and he started it right here in Columbus. There were 10 public events, so it helped really bring Will and his wit and wisdom to the city of Columbus. We're quite thrilled about that. The book got great reviews nationally. I mentioned our Artist Elevated Award. You're going to meet those folks here in a second. We also give out another award every year. It's the Raymond J. Hanley Award. We've done it for 13 years. It recognizes a Columbus-based artist for outstanding contributions to the community and their art form. This year's recipient of the $15,000 unrestricted cash award was Edward Liang, who is Ballet Met's artistic director, again, who launches the Nutcracker tomorrow. So our community is very fortunate to have Edward here, and we're thrilled to present him with that award. And finally, I want to mention the Arts Partnership Awards. Again, we had a virtual event on that. We couldn't do a live event this year, but we did reinstate the nomination process for the awards, including the Dale Heidloff Community Arts Innovation Award, which we launched last year. So the winners this year included former Franklin County Commissioner Marilyn Brown, Dion Custer Edwards from the Wexner Center for the Arts, and Johnny Riddle, who's with us today, down in front here, from the Franklinton Arts District. The Employer Award was presented to Land Grant Brewing Company, who I believe are providing the beer here at this event afterwards, so a little plug for Land Grant there. And the 2 Dale Heidloff Award recipients were Dante Woods Spikes for his art and empathy talks at the Columbus Museum of Art and other locations. and the Lincoln Theater for the Patterns Summer Art Camps. And Susan is with us here, so thank you, Susan, for being with us. So these winners truly show us the impact and importance of the arts in Columbus, and we are extremely grateful. I'm going to turn it over to Michael here in a second, who's going to talk about the future, about what 2022 is going to bring, and then we're going to bring out our host and our two guests. I want everyone to know that I consider myself and GCAC very incredibly fortunate to work with Michael Bongiorno as our board chair. For the past 2 years, he's led us through this pandemic period where we were challenged with survival and recovery. And so that's what he's had to deal with, and I really hope that 2022 is much better for you. So please join me in welcoming Michael. He's an award-winning architect in his day job, but he's really one of the most intelligent, creative, and compassionate people that I know. Michael?
Thank you, Tom. Just too kind. You know, I was thinking about all that you talked about, and you know, I think your kind words there, for me, were a reminder that all of us that are connected to you and are surrounding you are really positively impacted by your example. So thank you for everything you've done for the arts and the example you give for all of us. You bring out the best in us.
Thank you.
Tom, earlier you mentioned that we talked a lot about gratitude and resiliency last year, and I'm totally on the same page with you about that. I'm really hard pressed to think of a more appropriate theme for 2021. I think, you know, we are all grateful to be here today. We're grateful to be supporting the arts organizations and the artists at really what are historic financial levels. And we're also grateful for all the ways the community has come together during what can best be described as a Groundhog Day series of events associated with this pandemic. It seems like the same story over and over. But before I dive into all the things that we're going to be looking forward to, I want to further echo your gratitude, Tom, and specifically to the entire community, really, and in particular to the City of Columbus, and I see some representation here from the city tonight, Franklin County, and really the many, many businesses and individuals who've helped us weather another challenging year. As we prepare for this year's forum, I thought it was important to that we set the right tone for 2022 and for this event. So yes, we are still in a pandemic. Yes, things are still uncertain on a lot of fronts, and sometimes it's a lot to wrap our heads around. It seems endless, but even in the face of all that, I remain optimistic and hopeful, and I can't help but be excited about the future. And in 2022, we are finally going to start to see the true impact of the ticket fee proceeds that we worked really hard with a lot of stakeholders to help realize. And while money isn't everything, it is really important. This additional funding for the arts is going to help increase our impact and allow ourselves to innovate and push ourselves forward, and the creative community as well, in ways that best responds to our city's needs and the needs of our community and citizens. But with more money comes more responsibility, and trusted stewardship of public dollars is something that we at the Arts Council take very, very seriously. That's why I'm happy to share that with everyone that we've engaged in significant work related to board governance, risk management, and assessment. In addition, we've placed increased focus on initiatives supporting the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that we began back in 2018. As we learn and implement all of these best practices, we are sharing that gained knowledge with our grantees and the community. And I believe as a result of that, we're all better for it. We are always also looking for ways to help strengthen our grantees' operational practices. To that end, the 2022 guidelines introduce a general support funding category for those organizations with year-long programming. Organizations that have traditionally applied for project support for their annual seasons will now be eligible for unrestricted funds through general support. What's great about this is it gives organizations more flexibility with those dollars and gives the Arts Council a better mechanism to help build organizational capacity. Our hope from that is that to steadily grow our general support awards over the years, thereby helping organizations focus on artistic excellence, growth, and their operational sustainability. And sustainability is something that we talk about all the time. The new guidelines are also going to increase the non-competitive support for professional artist grants from what was formerly $1,000 to $1,200 and for individuals, and then $2,000 for bands and ensembles. So we're really excited about that as well. But one of the things I'm most excited about for 2022, though, is the return of the Columbus Arts Festival, which we had the rug pulled out from us not once, but twice, and we're gonna do it this year, Tom, by hook or by crook. And the great thing is that all of the things that you all love about the festival, the visual artists, the performances, the great food and drink, those are all coming back. And while we are still on the riverfront, we're gonna change it up this year. We're trying out a new neighborhood, the Arena District, and so we're excited about that as well. The 2022 festival, so how this is gonna be positioned is the festival is gonna sit on the stretch of Long and Spring Streets, bounded to the south by the Scioto Mile, South Bank Park, North Bank Park, sorry, on the south, and then McPherson's Commons on the north. And as we know, the Arena District has long been known for its as a home for sports events, baseball, hockey, and most recently soccer. But now we know that we can add arts to that list of event options, which is really exciting. And I will say the layout of the festival as we've imagined it will be a very cool example of creative placemaking. And we can't wait to unveil it next year. It's gonna be pretty exciting. Fear not, you can still get to the festival directly from the Scioto Mile bike paths. And I've been told by Jamie that we literally have 18,000 parking spaces within a 4-block radius, which is pretty cool because then no one should have any trouble getting to the festival next year. So we can't wait. There are going to be nearly 250 artists that we can't wait to host. They're going to be coming from around the country and around the world, in fact. And they're going to be sitting right here in Columbus. So we're going to be providing them the opportunity to sell their work, to share the talented performers who call Columbus home, and to see everyone's smiling faces again. All right, great. Well, I think this is a great point for me to stop talking and come full circle back to those we serve. Because none of what we do, nor what we plan, would happen without the amazing creators who call this community home. And with that thought in mind, we are thrilled to present our 2 Artist Elevated Award recipients who will join us on stage this afternoon to have a dialogue with us. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So Tom, I'm gonna turn it back over to you to bring out our host and guests.
Great. So now it's my pleasure to bring our 3 guests out. And the first is our host this evening, who's a longtime member of the Central Ohio broadcast community. Charlene Brown is the Emmy-winning co-host of WOSU's Neighborhood Series. You also would remember her for many years as anchor and reporter for ABC 6 and Fox 28 here in Columbus. Next, I want to bring out Erika Lane, who is a theater director, writer, actor, and mentor who has worked extensively with Mad Lab and OG Productions, and she specializes in writing and directing short plays. Thank you for being with us today. And finally is Kiana Simpson, who is a dancer and choreographer with more than 30 years experience studying traditional West African dance, music, and culture. She currently serves as a dancer, instructor, and assistant artistic director of the Shasane Institute. Welcome, Kiana. We're glad you're all here with us today. So, with that, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tom. Boy, it's really exciting to be part of this event and be on this stage with these outstanding people. What we're going to do is, for each question, I will address it specifically to one of you, but any of you can jump in if you have a comment to make on that question. So, first things first, every conversation recently seems to have to include talk about the COVID pandemic and how it's affecting all of us. And so let's get that one out of the way right off the top. Tom, I'll start with you.
Is that coming to me? Okay.
Yes, it
right.
is. Yes, it is. What do you see as the repercussions for artists and arts organizations of this prolonged pandemic with the emergence of all these new variants that have been coming out?
Here's the best thing I can say about this. And I actually happened to be on Ann Fisher yesterday, and we talked about this. The best thing you can do for the arts right now is get vaccinated, get the booster, wear your masks like you're doing in here today. The performing arts have reopened, as you know. The Broadway series had Hadestown in 2 weeks ago. It sold through 97% attendance. That was great. Fiddler on the Roof starts next week. The Nutcracker starts tomorrow night. You've got to show your vaccine card, your proof of vaccination. You've got to wear a mask. You've got to get the booster. You've got to pay attention to this stuff. That's the only way we can reopen. That's the only way we can get the bed tax going again, the ticket fee going again. That's all going to come back to the arts. So that's the best thing I can say about it. And things are open. There is a lot to do during the holidays. The Columbus Museum of Art has an incredible Van Gogh exhibit. So again, the Nutcracker tomorrow. The Short North Stage is doing a great show now called Sister Act. Franklin Park Conservatory has the Winter Lights up. COSI is doing the Marvel Superheroes. There's a lot to do. So the best thing you can do for us right now is get vaccinated, get the booster, buy tickets, give money. If you're a year-end giver, now's the good time to give to arts organizations. That's what we need to keep doing here.
Absolutely, and it's so important to support our artists and our arts organizations.
And
because
buy art. So let me add that.
Buy
Buy art.
By
Buy
all
art
means.
as Christmas gifts. I did this, didn't I do this, Mary? Yes, I did this. So buy art. It helps the artists. Yes.
Exactly, and that is the point right now. And I want to ask Erika and Quianna. We know the organizations have been hit hard, but the individual artists have been hit even harder than that. I was shocked when I read that the unemployment rate among creatives during this pandemic topped 50%. That is higher than even the restaurant and leisure industries. And so both of you are in the performing arts, and that area has suffered perhaps more than any other in the arts. So how have the two of you managed to survive, and what do you see as the future of dance and theatrical fields as we come out of the pandemic, which hopefully will be sometime soon? Who wants to start?
I can go. Okay. So yeah, obviously understanding that in dance, a lot of times that is, we want to see that live, and as a dancer, I'm just going to add in that it feels a lot better when you're in space with other people and the energy is being shared, and so it just gives that extra kind of, so the loss of that was, obviously loss of jobs and, that kind of thing, but I think it was also, a lot for the self, for the person to kind of endure in this particular field, not being able to be around people. So that was very difficult. But I feel like once that happened, you're down for a while and then you just kind of shift and go, okay, so what's next, or how do you get through? And one of the really cool things is GCAC actually had some things that they were doing, some grants for people who had lost their jobs. So that was like the first step. I was like, okay, GCAC, help me out. And so that was really cool. So it allowed me to kind of move through some of the performances that I wasn't able to do. So that kind of took place of that. But then it just became, and I think that's where we're emerging and coming out of, is thinking about new and innovative ways that I can use dance to reach in other ways and capacities. So, doing things obviously like going online and stuff like that, but also the idea of pre-recording work and, you know, like letting it live on like YouTube and like getting out to that. And so that's been really cool because now I've opened my eyes to the ways in which I can use my art form in those mediums and learning how to really like, you know, record and do my own dance films and like cut. So I've actually been able to learn some more tools and things like that. And I think the field is shifting in that way, period. I don't think that we'll ever really go back to what we were offered before with everything in live or in person. And so I think that's a little something to kind of hold on to as a way to see what I'm doing in the ways it can impact the community in the future. So.
Okay, so even more creativity from our creative community. Erika, how has it affected you in theater? How did you manage to keep things going?
Well, one of the things that we did in theater, and I had the advantage of being more of the independent, smaller, original works theater, where I think we were able to embrace the challenge a lot better than some of the theater companies that relied on more structured and larger performances. There were actually 2 social distancing festivals that we were able to put up during the early days of the pandemic. OGP had a social distancing festival. Mad Lab had a very COVID Christmas where we challenged the writers that we knew to actually write COVID restrictions and social distancing and everything into the scripts. So we performed plays where 2 were set on rooftops, or 2 were set on 2 sides of the riverbanks, or 2 were persons throwing a football, where it was a necessary part of it. I think one of the benefits that will not go away for original work, though, is the ability to collaborate without having to worry about geographic boundaries. Mm-hmm. We've had, through the Young Writers Program at Mad Lab, this was the first year that we were able to have our national mentors who are all over the country take part in developing the scripts for our high school students in the first readings. And again, we're able to work. Just 2 months ago, I was able to perform as an actor for a staged reading put on by a theater collaborative from Florida, because we were able to do it online. So I see, especially in the development of new work and workshopping and everything like that, I see those things as leading to even more voices being able to be developed and come to the stage in the future.
Yeah, it's amazing some of the ways that the arts have been broadened, even in the midst of this crisis. We all wish it hadn't happened, but look at some of the new and exciting things that have come out of it. Something else that kind of changed during the pandemic is that it really has made clear the importance of place. A lot of people are working from home, want to continue working from home, and so a lot of people are making the choice of where to live even before they choose where to work or what to do. So, Michael, my question for you is, how do you think Columbus stacks up in terms of a sense of place, and what kinds of things can we do in the future to even improve on that?
That's an excellent question, and one I feel really excited to answer. So 2 things, sort of the stacking up part. So the important thing to understand about cities is that they are always in the process of becoming. They're never done, and so they're always works in progress. And so we're no different as a city. And you could say that one of the things that makes us even, more of an example of that is that we're a younger city compared to a lot of cities, even in Ohio, when you think about Cleveland and Cincinnati. And so we are a story yet to be told, which is great because it says that, it's like my mother would always say to me, there's always room for improvement, right? So as we think about, though, what the challenge is, right, what the opportunity is, there are a few things to consider that are really exciting. One is we have to focus on the scale of the human experience. And Quianna, you made a really great point about what it means to come together as humans and share energy. We need each other, but we also need spaces for each other to come together in. So it's the kind of spaces that would intensify the social experiences is what we're looking for. The other part of it is that we need more dynamic and experiential spaces, and that's defined by things. I mean, and that's all. It's sort of a lot of nuance, right? How do you make things, a quality of space? Because I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and it's been repeated. the things that we do have and things that we don't have. We don't have mountains. We don't have oceans.
Notice that.
We have, we have great rolling plains. We have 5 great rivers. But what we can do, and what we have to do is really focus on the things that we make, the places that we make. And because the places that we make are so important, how we make them is important. So what does that mean? Better, and more integrated, and more interactive public art. To me, that's a really important, vital part of a great city. Spaces that foster a sense of belonging. Everyone in this room and everyone in this city should be able to picture themselves in a particular place with no sense of barrier, like I don't belong there. And so creating universally accessible spaces to everyone is an important part of it. And it's a great aspiration for us to have. I think if a city of Columbus figures out how to create those kinds of really fantastic spaces of belonging where we can come together, especially in light of everything that's happened over the past few years, that would be a really great accomplishment. Creating no more boring buildings, great architecture, really creating interactive outdoor spaces, looking at sustainability and how whenever you do something, you think about how what it does gives back to the earth rather than takes away from it. So there are so many possibilities that we could build on to make a really rich, nuanced environment for all.
All right, and I think also place figures in creativity as well of the artists. And so I'd like to ask Erika and Quianna, both of you, how does place or your neighborhood figure in your art? And also, tell us, if you would, are you from Columbus? And if you're not, what brought you here and what has kept you here? Okay, come on now.
All right.
It's on you, Erika.
I guess just to start out, so let's tell the story linearly. I was actually born about an hour north and then moved to a suburb of Columbus in middle school. So I spent middle school, high school here, so I was familiar with the Columbus area. Left to do a stint in academia for a while, but then finally landed back here in 2001, and I've been here ever since. As far as how my neighborhood actually impacts my art, I am South Side. I have been east of Parsons for more than 10 years now, for those of you who know what that means. It has been exciting to watch the neighborhood transition and develop, especially with all the growth from Nationwide Children's that's been doing great work in the area, former Mayor Coleman's investments in the safety and infrastructure, and just to see the transformation and the possibilities. When I moved into my neighborhood, half of the houses just on my block were boarded up, vacant, abandoned, and now they are all completely renovated. There are families moving in. It's been wild to watch the change. And so I think what that has done for me is not only from the beginning giving me a sense of just keeping it real, but being okay with it and knowing that growth and change and seeing things get better is possible. And so I like to try to put an optimistic spin on a lot of what I do, no matter what the circumstances.
Okay, and it does sound like your neighborhood has played a large part in that feeling.
It definitely did. It definitely, and there was a lot of community too. I mean, people that are in certain circumstances like we faced, the community bands together. You look out for each other. You watch out for each other. There's a collaboration and a collective caring.
Absolutely. And Quianna, what about you? Are you from Columbus? And if not, where are you from? And how does that figure in your art?
Oh no, I'm a good old Columbus gal.
All right.
Been here all my life, born and raised. Grew up on the near east side, and I'm right in line with what you're saying. In that neighborhood, growing up there was a growing sense of community and collective to continue to move through. I'm a product of social programs, so I hung out at Beatty Recreation Center, and I went down to the YWCA for African dance class, and so all of those things. And through that, I think one of the things that I take hold with me is that a lot of my social development and sense of community and things like that has grown from my time in my youth going through dance classes, and that was the way that I accessed dance actually. And so that instilled in me something that's very important, which is to give back to my community. I want to be in places and spaces that gives the next little me an opportunity to do the same thing. And so that's where my work really lies, is in community work, community development, along with using dance as the vehicle for youth and people to access so many other things, life skills that are going to, hopefully just catapult them into a great sense of adulthood and a sense of, again, community pride and things like that. So yeah, and currently I'm working, I go to school over at Ohio State University, so in my second year getting my MFA, and I went in going, I'm gonna do something for me, and then I'm in my second year now, and me is now still everybody, right? So it lives with me, my sense of community, and so that's really what I'm researching now. I'm using African dance as a way to look into that whole idea of what it means to be or value interdependence and a sense of collective. So yeah,
that's fantastic. We have a great community and a really great arts community, and clearly place does matter. But for right now, I think I see questions on the faces of our audience. And so right now we're going to turn the microphone over to you, and you may ask questions of our guests. And you can start with one in particular if you want to address it to one person, or you can ask it of all four and anyone can just jump in. Who's going to go first? Great.
Good afternoon. Thank you. This is a great program. Thank you all for being here. So I have a question probably for Tom and Michael. I have been so pleased to see the Arts Council's focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's great to see a diverse group of folks here today. And also your focus on accessibility. So I'm curious, how has that focus at the Arts Council manifested itself with our support of the arts and in our programs?
Okay, so I'll start with that. You can chime in. So it starts with our strategic plan at the highest level. We have a strategic plan that has 4 pillars in it. One of them is entirely focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That topic flows throughout our strategic plan. This plan has been in place for probably a good 2 years. We have just spent a year with the YWCA, the leadership of the YWCA, putting the board and the full staff through diversity training, as it were, 4 different sessions. That's been great for us. We try to use our programming platform also in this space. I'd mention a couple things here. We have a program called Thrive, which came out of the ticket fee debate, actually, that's targeted to Black arts organizations or organizations that serve the African American, the Black community. We have 3 in that program now. We've just added 3 new organizations, so that is underway. It's a mentorship program for us too. We completely make all of our resources available to Black arts organizations that are in this program, and in the 3rd year of it, which we're going to approach soon with the first class, they get to then help mentor the organizations that are moving through that. So that's been great. We talked about the Amina Robinson residency and fellowship program. That is for Black artists only. The residency program, which is local, that's the one that DuArt just ran, that we clapped for, that just won, that we clapped for. That's a $15,000 fellowship. He gets to work out of Amina's house, do community work for us. That's for a local Black artist. The national one, the residency program, again, you get to stay in Amina's house for 90 days. Black artists only can apply for that. It's a national program. We have a national jury that makes that decision for us. Many examples. We moved during the pandemic. You talk about changing our accessibility and our visibility. We were in a corporate tower on the 22nd floor for 15 years, and I'm not criticizing that. It worked during that time period. We are now on Long Street at the start of the Discovery District. We have glass windows. You can see what we're doing inside. We are completely accessible to the artists and the art organizations in the city. You can park right in front of our building. You can walk to us. We're on the bus line. It just goes on and on. The accessible. You can come in. We have office space for artists if they want to apply. Davon is sitting right out there. He's the guy you need to know. He'll help show you how to apply to get our money. Much more visibility, much more accessibility. And I can go on about this. I'll mention one last thing. We have the Loanne Crane Gallery in our building, which is focused on historically marginalized individuals. We've had, I think we're in our 4th or 5th exhibit now. The current exhibition, which comes down, I think next week, is the artists from the Goodwill Studios. So we are showing art. It is all for sale. It's from handicapped, physically, mentally handicapped individuals. It is wonderful. We've sold a lot of the pieces. The proceeds go back to the artists. The next exhibition, and Jamie back in the back there helps to stage and coordinate all of this, is with the Ohio Prison Arts Connection. So we're going to be showing art in January from recently returned citizens and also currently incarcerated citizens. All that will be for sale. And it just goes on and on. We're going to do something with veterans next year, hopefully something with the GLBTQ community. It's just wonderful. So we are really wearing this every day in the office. We are using our platforms to try to influence the other arts organizations. Again, the Art Makes Columbus program, our work with Maroon Arts, which we're so proud of. They just got an NEA grant to continue this work. It just goes on and on. We're right where we need to be, and this work is going to just continue forever. It really will.
Yeah, if I can add, Tom, to that, 2 things. One, kind of to reinforce what you said about what is intentionally actionable is how we fund artists and arts organizations, and the work and the rigor that's gone into that to make sure that it's a more equitable distribution of those funds. I think the second thing, from a board governance perspective, and this kind of goes back to what I said earlier, if you don't see yourself somewhere, you're not going to go there. And so our board itself, the composition of it matches. If you look at the demographics of our city and the demographics of our board, it matches pretty closely to that. So we as a board have worked hard on being a place where people can see themselves and can see themselves doing things and contributing, and that it's not a barrier. We're trying to remove the barrier of perception to what constitutes an Arts Council board. And so I think that's something that we've put a lot of thought and effort into as well.
Yeah, and that's very welcome in the community, and I'm sure our artists absolutely appreciate that. Let's see if we have another question. That was a very good one. Thank you for that question. Someone else? We have some from our online audience.
This question has to do with accessible spaces for all, the vital role that in-person experiences have on the arts. And the questioner wanted to know what's being done to check or to help with the overwhelming increase of prices of studios and parking around events. And prices are going up for everything, unfortunately. But I think this also speaks to, we know there's a larger need for different kinds of spaces in Columbus. And maybe Michael or Tom, you could talk to that. And as people who need studios or rehearsal spaces, I think you guys can probably relate to that as well.
So we hear about this almost every day. And there is definitely a need for more studio space for artists, rehearsal spaces, places for artists to live and work also in. We really only have 1 or 2 places like that in Columbus. There is a desperate need for theater spaces of different sizes. The symphony wants a new symphony hall. All this is out there in the community in various stages of discussion. And it's something that we really probably need to be the convener on, to be honest about it. As the city grows, this need becomes more and more obvious. we particularly hear about it from the theater companies in our world that need right-sized spaces that are very workable, that are very accessible, that aren't out in the suburbs, but are down in the center core of the city that people can get to very easily. The other part I'd say that to that question that Jamie's been working on is really, and Judge Eileen Paley, who's here with us today, cares passionately about this, longtime board member of ours, getting tickets in the hands of people that might not be able to afford it and getting them the transportation to get to these events. And we have something that I think is going to be coming on that in the new year here that we've spent a lot of time on. So this issue of space, transportation, access to the arts so people can go for free, but we also have to be able to get them there. So it's one thing to be able to give somebody a free ticket, but if they can't get there, they're not going to use it. So there's a lot of discussion. There's things that are coming on it. The library did a very creative thing over the course of the last year or two where you can go to the library and check out a pass to Franklin Park Conservatory, the Wexner Center. I think the Art Museum is in on that program. COSI is in on that program. So lower income individuals, if you got a library card, you can go and do that. And that's worked very well in Columbus and other cities. So I think there's much more to come on that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not.
Yeah, I think, one of the other things to like consider as, in terms of like maybe performance spaces is, organizations partnering. Building a facility that serves many things and many different uses, many different groups, is a way to kind of, compile resources to be able to share space. Because I think that's, part of what is going to help solve this is if spaces are expensive, you have to come up with creative ways to, structure your relationship to those spaces. And that could be in partnership with an organization or an industry, an institution. But I think, as Tom said, I think the importance of our role in that is that we can help be a convener of all those energies. We can help connect the dots. We can't provide, the capital for that, but we can help connect the dots.
Absolutely, and I'd love to hear from our artists, your experience with that, and what are you seeing and hearing among your colleagues as far as prices for spaces and prices for tickets and so on?
Yeah, I would totally agree that, one, I think it's important for us to look at what the infrastructure looks like for having places and spaces that allow multi-use. I think that provides something that will be much more sustainable and be able to reach out in a multitude of arts. If it is created or like in a way in which like that it can function for the different art aspects, I think that would be amazing, especially if it's like a more of a centrally located thing. So I do hear what you're saying. A lot of times we think about giving out free tickets and who can we reach. Again, with my work in the youth, we oftentimes want to give them, a free ticket to come see the show. Get to see it live and in action, get it in your soul, and invigorate you even more into what you're interested in. I know that to spark the rest of the light that I see already shining, but then they can't get there. And then that becomes a question. So there's, I know in the areas that I work, that is a challenge, and I do see where I think partnership and, we talk a lot about corporate and community partnershiping and what that looks like, and I think those are ways that we can definitely find a bridge to make those things happen. Because prices are going up, and there's already not a lot of space. So.
Yeah, it's steep for a lot of people, and of course we want everyone to be able to come and see and hear and appreciate what's going on in this city. Erika, what about you?
Well, I work a lot with Mad Lab, and one of the advantages that they have there is they actually bought their own building. I believe it was in 2012. Now there's not a humongous seat capacity in there. It is a smaller black box theater. But they also do a lot of rentals to other theater companies that would be coming in to want this space. And as far as ticket prices, as far as I know, they haven't really increased them. I believe they're still pretty affordable, $18, $15 if you have a discount, and then the membership can also give you other opportunities for discounts as well. One of the things that I love about OGP that they've done is they've turned non-traditional spaces into performance spaces. We do annual shorts festivals at the St. James Tavern for Valentine's Day and the 4th of July, and through a partnership with the owner of that space. Other spaces in town, we've been able to put up smaller shows in side rooms or in restaurants, or it's a random kind of pop-up theater thing. Wherever Stephen Woosley can find a place to put up a show, he will.
Well, and again, the creativity of the creative community addressing an issue of where to hold your performances, where to put your art, and how to get the people in there. I think that's great, and I think it's going to take all of us putting our heads together and being as creative as we can to address that issue.
There's a great example this week in terms of facilities. The Franklin County Commissioners have purchased the Northland Performing Arts Center, and that's going to be the new home of the Harmony Project, which we're all familiar with, 500-person community choir that also does good deeds, and they needed a home. They did not have a home to perform in. They're going to lease the space from the commissioners, but that facility will also be able to be used for other arts organizations. Hopefully some theater companies can use it. Vaudevilities also uses that facility. So that'll take a little bit of pressure off, but there's still a need for facilities and to take an overall look at that.
Sure. All right, is there another question from our audience or from our live stream? Come on up.
So first off, thank you so much for this opportunity and this forum, both in person for the guests that are able to be here, but also for those who are tuning in. It's that hybrid between the in-person and the virtual that has really helped a lot of arts organizations weather the pandemic and still spread their message and be accessible to a large audience. Is there any research or understanding of how people are feeling with this hybrid model? I understand that we're probably going to be here for a while, so I'm just interested to hear a little about
so thank you, Johnny. It's a great question. And I'll start with it. There is research on this. People clearly still want the live performance. We've referred to this a little bit earlier. The pandemic forced everybody online. That worked for a while. It introduced a lot of arts organizations to new audiences. So the dance companies, the theater companies could be, in Paris, and you could have viewers watching your performances from Paris. My sense of it is that people still want to be together. So like we've been talking about up here, you want to go out with your friends, you want to go out with your family. You're certainly willing to pay more, I think, for a live performance than you would pay online. We've seen studies that show as much as 62% of the people still want to prefer the in-person performance. Only like 9% are willing to accept the online performance. So clearly the opinion is there. I think you're seeing that. I mean, Hadestown is a great example. If it sold, 97% of the seats were sold for that in the Ohio Theater. That tells you, and there's pent-up demand too. People want to be out. They're willing to show their the hassle of going, having to wait in line maybe a little bit longer and get in by showing your vaccine card and wearing a mask for the whole show. So we're willing to tolerate that. People want the live show. The pandemic allowed everybody to expand their audience, maybe bring in new donors, new ticket buyers. Really, the Short North Stage and others, when they did this, they're really selling tickets for $10 or $15, whereas an in-person show, you'd probably be able to do $40, $50 for that. So the online stuff is definitely here to stay. There'll still be hybrid stuff. In Columbus, people want the live show, I think. I don't know whether you guys want to add anything to that or not. Live music, live performance, live dance.
It just does.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
There's energy, like Kiana mentioned. There's excitement to seeing a performance in person. You can watch all day online or on television, but boy, it's a whole different experience when you are there in person and interacting with the people on stage.
Different for the performers too. When we were filming them, it was a completely different atmosphere than it would have been if they would have had a live audience that we were able to bring in.
We cannot escape being humans. It's just not something we're going to get away from, and all those years of evolution, we're just not going to tech ourselves out of it anytime soon. Which I think back to the idea of space and place. We're design. I mean, we all generally, with some exceptions, we're about the same height, we're about the same width. We see about the same distances. We relate to each other in a very specific scale, and we exchange energy that way as well. And when you remove that, that's why you see a lot of people struggle with mental health right now, and sometimes they don't really understand what that's coming from. But I will say, being in a deprivation chamber is not a great way to kind of maintain your mental health, and this separation creates that, and reducing ourselves to images on screens takes away from that. So I'm a big believer in intensifying and amplifying that social side.
So I'm getting the signal in the back
yeah,
here. But I
we're
want to
all seeing
mention
it.
one more thing if I can. We have some elected officials here with us today that are very, very involved with us. I mentioned Judge Eileen Paley earlier, longtime board member of GCAC, but I see Megan Kilgore, city auditor, back in the back. Even I recognize her in mask, so thank you. She's a tremendous partner for the arts. And I see Emmanuel Remy, council member Emmanuel Remy, who also serves on the Columbus Arts Council board, and just tremendous partner. We even today, some things we were doing with him today, just really wonderful. So we have such support from our civic leaders, the council members, the mayor, the county commissioners, the Ohio Arts Council. Like I mentioned earlier, we couldn't not be more grateful. So thank you. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to add. Thank you. These are the first two award winners of the Artist Elevated Award. Yeah, I know. They've each received $20,000, and when I got to call them, it was the greatest day of my life, too.
I think that's going down in history.
And we are going to do this every year. AEP has given us money. We've got significant money from Mary Lazarus, Michael and Arlene Weiss. People are putting it in their estate planning for us. It just goes on, and we're going to grow this fund, and we're going to do 2 more of these next year. We want to do 5. We want to do 10 of them as we can raise the money and invest the money and have the earnings off the endowment to do that. And we are going to be known for this work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, it looks like that's all that we have time for. It's been a wonderful discussion, so thank you everyone for being part of it. Thank you for all of you who are out there watching the live stream, and especially thank you for all of you who are in person, enjoying the energy and the interaction here. Tom?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.